stock market turmoil. Let's bring in Joe Grano, former UBS Paine Webber chairman, and on the phone, former New York Stock Exchange chairman and CEO Dick Grasso. Thank you so much to you both.
Why is Grasso on the phone and not here?
Hey, Charlie, isn't there a rule against 3 Italians with the last names beginning in G?
Oh, that's true.
That's why you're on the phone, Dick. That's why it's too many in the room.
I think you're jealous of Donald Trump. You want to be just like Donald, and so you want to call in, and then you're probably going to run for mayor of New York City. Isn't that accurate,
Well,
Mr.
remember,
Grasso?
Charlie, when I'm elected, you will be sanitation commissioner.
Oh, wow.
My dad worked for the New York City Sanitation Department for a short
time. All right, Dick, let me first get your take on this rally this morning. What do you make of a 600-point gain in the Dow futures ahead of the open after yesterday's big sell-off?
Well, Sandra, I said something to Stuart Varney last night, and I think it's going to be a pretty good level of advice for investors. Take 2 aspirin and call your broker in 6 months. This is dancing with the elephants going on right now. What people are forgetting is that China is not in a depression. They simply have experienced a shrinkage in their GDP from 10% to 5%. Wouldn't we love to have that in the United States? I think it's a time when people who have missed the cycle, and we're in a secular bull market with a predictable correction as we've seen over the last few weeks. People who have missed the last 7,000 points of upside in the Dow can now take the opportunity to leg in intelligently to a well-balanced portfolio.
All right, so, Joe, at the same time, you've got this market sell-off getting politicized. Donald Trump weighing in on just about everything, as he usually does.
Chris Christie, your guy.
He's vowing to go after hedge funds now. And, he's still sitting at the top of the polls.
Well, let's not get too excited about Donald's attack on hedge funds, because, remember, the man that he cites most often to deal with the issues of China and Japan is Carl Icahn, a brilliant investor who runs one of the biggest hedge funds in the world.
If an elephant escaped from the zoo today, Trump would say we got to get rid of elephants. Okay, he's a promoter first. So
wait a second. Your guy is Chris Christie, right? The New Jersey governor. He came out and basically blamed the market turmoil yesterday on Obamanomics, on President Obama's policies. But everybody thought Chris Christie would be the guy to stand out from the pack, to be the guy that said it like it is, and all of a sudden that role has been totally taken over
by Trump,
by the Donald.
That's true.
How did that happen?
And look, I'm disappointed in the momentum that Christie has in New Hampshire. It's terrible.
Really?
So I'm concerned that he may not get to the next level.
So you think he might bow out?
Yeah, but no, I don't think that. I think he'll go down fighting. But one-on-one, he's very impressive.
Yes, I know.
But I'm very disappointed. I think I have to question his campaign per se.
Really? Have you told this to Ken Langone?
I told it to Christie.
Really?
Yes. I think he's got to move more center.
Let me jump in there, Charlie, because remember one thing. As strong as Donald is polling and as much oxygen as he's pulling out of the traditional Christie anti-Washington movement, you're talking about 70% of polled Republicans voting for someone other than the Donald.
Well, I would just say this, Dick, and I know I've been speaking with people in these campaigns. The internal polls had shown Trump at lower levels than these sort of public polls, but that's starting to change now as well. He is starting to develop legitimate steam according to these internal polls. Yeah. By the way, these internal polls are much more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
You pay for them. It's very granular.
I give him 30% right now, Charlie. Strong.
Well, you know what that means? At the very least, he speaks at the Republican convention.
Well, look, I think what you're seeing with Donald is a reaction from the electorate, a section of the electorate that's very angry. They're angry with both parties. Mm-hmm. It had nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. It's about politicians and flawed policies. We've had a terrible administration, in my view.
Right.
Both parties, in my view, have gotten to this extreme positioning. The Republican Party's got to get off its moral high horse. The Republicans got to stop. The Democrats got to stop entitling everybody.
Right.
So I think you're seeing a reaction from the American public. They're very angry.
But isn't he a good politician in a way?
No, he's a great
Trump?
politician. He's extremely charming, and he can work a crowd like nobody's business.
He's like amazing.
And the thing is people, he is a point of conversation at breakfast and dinner tables every day, and that's why you see those internal numbers start to turn, because the more you talk about him, he comes out and talks about China, and he's saying things that he probably doesn't really mean about cutting China off.
Grasso
We got to disconnect ourselves from